How's everybody doing today? So here I am in Scarborough, Ontario, a suburb of Toronto. I'm going to attempt to tell the story of Paul Bernardo, Karla Homolka, their horrendous crimes, and of course, focus on their victims. Now, just to give you a little background, I grew up in North York, Ontario, which is a suburb of Toronto as well. But after the arrests and you know, it was all the biggest story in Canada, you know, people would drive by the Bernardo house, which is right up there, and where his family, his parents still live. I'm going to take you there. And so we used to drive past it, you know, like people did. I mean, it's morbid, but it's a morbid curiosity that we did, or a lot of people had. I've never seen any movement outside the house. I've never seen the parents. I've only seen pictures of them. And I drove by the other day just to make, you know, just to double check the house. Still, it's shuttered. But so this is interesting. This video is going to be tough. Like I said, I'm going to attempt to tell the story of Paul Bernardo, Karla Homolka, but about their victims. It's a lengthy story, multiple locations all over Southern Ontario, but we're going to do it. And so let's go. We're going to drive up, take a look at the house where Paul Bernardo grew up, and then go from there. There's going to be a lot to this story, and I hope I can tell it with the dignity, the gravity that their victims deserve. And Bernardo, it's a very sensitive topic in Canada, very, very sensitive still. I mean, over 25 years later, it's still a touchy subject, sensitive. So these are going to a lot of locations that it's going to be difficult to film. Some are going to be private homes, some are going to be public places, but I mean, it's kind of like if you're outside of these places, people know why you're there. And but that hasn't stopped me before, of course. But yeah, it's a touchy subject. It's hard to explain how certain crimes, and this was one of the biggest crimes in Canadian history, and how it affected Canada, and how just still to this day, it's awful. And so let's go. We're gonna go up the street now. Paul Bernardo was born on August 27th, 1964, to Kenneth and Marilyn Bernardo. The Bernardos were a financially well-off, stable, middle-class family. In 1975, Kenneth Bernardo, Paul's father, was charged with child molestation, and then there were rumors he had even molested his own daughter. Paul Bernardo did not seem to be affected by this, though. Observers recall him as always happy, always smiling, a young, cheerful boy. This house had darker secrets, however. When he was 16, his mother revealed to him that he was actually the result of an extramarital affair with a high school sweetheart, and this changed Bernardo's behavior. He began to refer to his own mother as a slob and a whore, nicknames that Bernardo's father had given his mother. The Bernardos slept in separate beds, eventually the mother moving down to the basement. They were not your average couple. Okay, well, I did not expect that. I did not expect to see Paul Bernardo's father. I mean, he was looking right at me as I was filming. I didn't expect that. He's on camera and it's in the video now. He was in court when Bernardo was charged with a series of Scarborough rapes. We're going to get into the whole story, but he was in court the same day as Bernardo for sexual assaults dating back to the 60s. So there's definitely a family, I don't know, connection there in terms of depravity and disgusting behavior. Wow. Okay, now I'm going to take you to another location, and we're going to go from there. Okay. This would be Paul Bernardo's public school, where he attended kindergarten through grade 6. About a 5-minute drive from his home, probably about a 25-minute walk. But this is it right here. Now I'm going to take you to his high school. This is where Paul Bernardo attended high school. His public school is just down the road, same stretch of road, not too far away. His whole life was in this one little area of Scarborough. Now, that's not his yearbook photo. I'm going to show you his yearbook photo. And his graduation photo that was in the front foyer of the school has since been removed. So this is Paul Bernardo's yearbook photo here, and I thought I would include it and read what it says below. Paul Bernardo, stud will remember Laurier where he pursued his favorite pastime, meeting females. He plans to become rich and famous so he can go to California and check out the girls on the beach. Paul says the only way to go through life is to go for it. When Paul began high school, he was doing well, but his parents never thought anything was good enough. He met his first love here, an attractive young blonde to whom he lost his virginity. After about a year-long relationship, she broke up with Paul due to her involvement with his good friend. After this, Paul was enraged, and he set fire to all things that she left behind, mementos, clothing, anything that he had of hers. Early on in his high school years, he exhibited behaviors that would indicate the monster he would become. With that girlfriend and with others, he was sexually violent, verbally abusive, dominant. And this is how he was with the young girls that he stalked at the bus stops in Scarborough. He would wait for them to get off of the buses late at night as they walked home alone along the lonely, dark roads. He began to fantasize about having a virgin farm fantasy where he would have a stockpile of women who were only around to service him. Not too long after, Paul's father was discovered to be a peepee Tom in the neighborhood, and Paul's lifestyle begins to change along with his attitude toward women. Due to his abusive nature and strange sexual preferences, all of Paul's girlfriends eventually ended up leaving him. Here's where Paul Bernardo attended university. This is the University of Toronto. Now, the main campus is downtown. This is the Scarborough campus. This is about a 10-minute drive from his house. He earned a degree in accounting. Then he worked for Price Waterhouse. That didn't last long, though, and he began a career smuggling cigarettes across the border because they're cheaper to buy in the United States and resell them here in Canada. When he was here studying accounting at the University of Toronto, he became adept at picking women up at bars and in classes on the campus, only to later humiliate and beat them. And as you're going to see, there are a lot of bus stops here. This is where he would stalk his victims, various bus stops around the campus and in Scarborough. Around 1 a.m. on the 4th of May 1987, a young woman was attacked and raped within minutes of getting off a bus near her home in Scarborough. Now, this is one of a series of up to 24 rapes or attempted rapes that took place over a 5-year period. Bernardo would later go on to boast that he had committed over 30 rapes. The targets of the man called the Scarborough rapist were teenage girls and young women. Most of the attacks happened outdoors, but in at least one instance, the perpetrator broke into his victim's home. The attacks were accompanied by beatings, intense verbal abuse, and dire threats to discourage victims from going to the police. On one occasion, a uniformed Toronto police officer staking out a bus shelter spotted a suspect hiding under a tree and pursued him on foot, but the suspect escaped. What I find most shocking about this case is how many crimes he committed that were actually in the victims' parents' backyards, front yards. The girls were so close to home, but heartbreakingly, their muffled sounds could not be heard. Now here we are at 1200 Markham Road in Scarborough, Ontario. This is where Paul Bernardo briefly worked as an accountant at Price Waterhouse on the 4th floor. I got this information off of an envelope, a picture I found of an envelope on the internet on a blog. And I cannot believe how close it is to where he committed so many vicious attacks, where he grew up, where he went to school. It's literally just up the street. And I went inside and I took a look on the directory to see if Price Waterhouse was still listed. They are not. Investigators twice questioned Bernardo, who lived in his parents' Scarborough home at the time. They were satisfied he was not a likely suspect, but as a matter of routine, they took samples of his hair, blood, and saliva for DNA testing against specimens found on a rape victim's clothing. DNA testing was relatively new in Canada at the time, and the Centre of Forensic Sciences in Toronto had only one qualified scientist and one technician. The samples taken from dozens of men questioned in the Scarborough rapist case were among 50,000 collected at that time by police investigating numerous crimes across Ontario. Now this school here, Paul Bernardo did not attend, Karla Homolka did not attend, but right here on this stretch of road, this is Midland Avenue here in Scarborough. He attacked a young woman in May of 1990. He walked up behind her, said something along the lines of, "Hey, how's it going?" She didn't give much of a reply, kept her head down, kept walking. This is about 1:40 a.m. in the morning. He held back a bit, then charged her from behind, literally picked her up and took her over here into the back of the school, where it's very deserted at that time of night, as you can imagine. But this gave police a big break, because she got a good look at him. She gave a detailed description, and that was the picture that went out all over Toronto. It was everywhere. This picture of Paul Bernardo right here, of course they didn't know it at the time he was Paul Bernardo, but the Scarborough rapist, everybody was looking for this guy. And there was a reward, and tips were coming in all the time. I would imagine, here's another bus stop. Now, from what I know, she was just walking along. I don't think she was at this bus stop, but that's his MO, was attacking young women by bus stops, getting off the bus, waiting for the bus. But I imagine he took her somewhere back here where it's very deserted. It said that he took her to the back of the school on the deserted grounds. So by this point, he had already met Karla Homolka and been dating her for 3 years. They met in 1987. They met at a hotel restaurant. Now it's a Howard Johnson's. There's a Howard Johnson still right off the main highway here in Toronto, the 401. And I always thought it was that one. But I was informed that there was another one closer, much closer to his house, which is more in the area of where he worked. And it's gone now. I'm still going to take you there and show you where they would have met, but that building is now gone. So it makes more sense. And I was told there was a bar, there was a restaurant there, and the other one doesn't have that. And it's more of just a 2-level one. This one was a bigger hotel. And where people went, where back in the 80s, people went to party. So I'm going to take you there right now, show you where he met, the grounds where he met Karla Homolka, his partner in crime. So here I am on the grounds of Centennial College. There's a lot of Centennial College campuses peppered throughout Toronto. This is the Scarborough one here. And this would be where Howard Johnson's used to stand. Now, like I said, there is another Howard Johnson still standing. But from the amount of research I've done, this is where Paul met Karla in 1987. They parked in the parking lot right here, would have walked into this building, saw Karla through the window of the cafe, and instant connection. Him and his friend went right up to her and her friend. Karla was here for a pet convention. She worked for a pet company, and they were in town. And within, I guess, in about an hour, I'm not sure how long they sat and ate and talked, Karla invited them up to the room for a drink. While their friends were in the room, Paul and Karla had sex for the first time here. And like I said, it was an instant connection. They were very, very taken with each other. And their relationship started right here. Sickening to think how two people can meet like that and be immediately, two individuals that go on to commit these horrible, horrible crimes, how they had that instant connection. And I know that their first night of sex, they were both trying to be dominant, and Paul was having none of that. He wanted to be the dominant one. And Karla the next day had already begun writing him a love letter, of which she wrote many, many during their relationship. But here's where the student residences now stand, where Howard Johnson's used to be. So now it's getting dark here, but the video will continue. Tomorrow I'm setting off for Southern Ontario, St. Catharines, Burlington, the Niagara region, where Paul and Karla's relationship really heated up. That's where he moved to St. Catharines to be with her. And it's where the story gets very, very dark. Okay, we'll continue on soon.